Finally, Friday here on the Sweat, which means I know. Oh, thank goodness.
Let
Week
it out.
13 in the NFL, it's already underway. You got one game behind us, whole bunch more on the way on Sunday. I'm Adam Kaufman. He's Brendan Glasheen. You're you, and we're glad you're here. Welcome in. This should be fun. We got a lot to cover, as we always do, but, you know, we start with football. We have to.
For sure. This time of year, you know where we're starting. As Adam said, football. Without further ado, let's bring in our experts. DK Live Steve Buchanan, Reed Fowler, plus Anthony Amico from the Action Network. Hello, gents.
Hello,
how's it going?
Where in the world is Reed Fowler now?
Steve has his Dodger blue on
Over-unders,
again.
boys. Good place to start. We'll give you team totals. You tell us if you like the over or the unders. Pretty simple. So simple even Jeff Ulrich could figure it out, but he's not here, you know, just in case. We didn't include him. First one, though, Panthers-Bucks. Everyone is expecting a shootout. Carolina's favored. So can Cam Newton and company go over the 28.5 team total? Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so, right? What you like about what Cam Newton and the Panthers have done in the past, especially against this team, right, is they've gone over this mark. And what we really like is Tampa Bay's defense, especially their pass DVOA. They're dead last, right? So we want to see these overs. Look, Cam and these guys have been struggling in terms of covering, in terms of getting wins when they need to, and they haven't really faced good teams. But we've seen them put up points against bad defenses and good defenses. So I do like this implied game total. I think this is going to be a shootout, so I'm going to say over here.
Reed, it's great to see you have many leather-bound books.
Thanks, buddy. It smells like rich mahogany in here.
It looks like it would. Steve.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Reed has the Babysitters Club, the whole collection right behind him.
Boxcar children. Boxcar children.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to think that this is possible here. I mean, the one concern I do have is this game total has dropped about 2 points already from when it's open. It's not a huge amount, but it's definitely a little concerning with a game that the Bucs defense, you know, is involved in. But from a team perspective, the Panthers have gone over in 7 of their 11 games already this season. And if there was a week where they would make it 8, this would definitely be the week against this Buccaneers defense. So I think it's definitely possible here. It is a big amount overall. And obviously, you know, we have a lot of good aspects here that we like with Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton getting his rushing back that we saw last week. So I think it's totally doable.
Steve, Reed, I hope you both had wonderful birthdays recently. Anthony, cap us off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sweep. I definitely think that they can do it. The Bucs are probably the worst defense in the entire NFL. I mean, you know, before Week 7, they lost K'Wan Alexander, they lost Jack Shishi, 2 starting linebackers for them for the year. Since then, Tampa Bay has allowed 5.3 yards per carry and 9.6 yards per pass attempt. Both those marks are bottom 5 in the league. And Carolina's defense really isn't that great either, so this certainly could be a shootout. So I'll take over here for Carolina.
Yeah, one thing to mention too. Sorry to cut you off there, but look at Ian Hartitz tweeted this out, and you can look at their practice reports. This bad secondary, a lot of them haven't practiced all week or did not practice today. So there are a lot of injuries for this bad secondary. If these starters are bad, what do you think those backups are? Worse. So yeah, over.
Ian Hartitz, frequent guest of the show, so good synergy. Thank you, Reed.
It's good to see that Ian's back on Twitter. There was at one point where he was off.
Yeah, it was a brief absence, but he's back.
He's back.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Rams coming off the bye week, folks. Offense has been prolific. 31.5 points on the road in Detroit is the number. Over or under? Let's go to Anthony.
I'm going to say under here. I just don't think that they have to score that much to dominate this game. Detroit is also dead last in situation neutral pace. So you'd imagine they'll probably try to slow this game down, attack the Rams on the ground. Do I expect that to work? No. But, you know, Aqib Talib is back. Not really sure the Lions are going to be able to move the ball at all. So that means the Rams can just get a lead and keep it without going crazy. I think their team total is probably a little juiced up after the big Monday night game last week.
How about you, Steve? Feeling over?
Yeah, I'll go over here. I mean, it does feel a little bit high. I mean, Anthony made a good point there. But they're still averaging 34.5 points per game. Now, obviously, that game, the last one against the Chiefs, obviously juiced that number up, kind of like what Anthony was alluding to there. But they're also getting a completely healthy Todd Gurley back as well, which obviously is a huge plus. The Lions are so poor against the ground. I mentioned earlier in the week, you know, they look like they've been a little bit better, but that was against the Bears twice and the Panthers. So they weren't able to bottle up Christian McCaffrey some there. But, you know, there's not really any matchups again for the Rams that you're really worried about with the Lions defense. I mean, if Darius Slay is going to be covering Josh Reynolds, please do that all day so it opens up Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. I mean, if that's the matchup that we're really going to worry about here, you've got to think the Rams are in a good spot here to go over.
Reed, what are the books telling you, over or under? Wow, I didn't even know you had a book in your hand.
Let's see if
Excuse
you
me,
can look
I
up a
heard
word
that's
that you know.
what you do when you want to be smarter is read the dictionary. No, I agree with these guys here. Look, They're giving up 26
different
points
here.
per game. 26 points per game. Detroit's bad defense, right? They're 30th in overall DVOA, 11th highest in drives that end in a score at 40%, right? And so now you talk about these individual pieces that Steve was talking about with Darius Slay. Like, who's going to stop these guys? Like, the Rams are averaging 35 points against an implied team total. And so can they score more? Absolutely. I don't really think Detroit can keep up with this high game total. So, yeah, I think the Rams have to score this much to reach this over, which I do think hits. So I'm going to say over here, too, as well.
Speaks English well, just couldn't decipher over or under.
Yeah, he
based
had
on
the
the
dictionary
opinions
up
of
in his
others.
eyes.
He wasn't paying any attention.
Anthony
at all.
said under, Steve said over, and then Reed says, "Oh yeah, I agree with these guys."
Yeah,
That
no,
makes
both
sense.
of them. Hey, lots of good points.
Makes a lot of
Okay,
sense.
Steve, Chase Daniel is under center for the Bears again, posted about 20 points last week. But can he guide Chicago to 24 points on the road against the Giants? So would you chase or fade Chase, basically?
This game is just so bad. Like, I have no interest in this game at all. But look, I mean, he wasn't bad on Thanksgiving. We'll give him that. But I think this Giants defense doesn't get enough credit for, they're pretty decent. I mean, they've allowed opposing quarterbacks only averaging 261 passing yards a game, only 18.3 DK fantasy points on the year, which is the 8th lowest in the league. And that puts them right in the same company as defenses like the Vikings and the Seahawks. So I still want to see a little bit more from Daniel if he can actually repeat that performance from last week. But until then, this just feels a little bit high for, a pretty good defense and a quarterback that really hasn't started much in the past 3 years. So I'm going to go under on this one.
Reed, you go ahead. I'm not sure what Steve said because something about complimenting the Giants and then I blacked out.
Yeah, I agree with Steve here. I'm going to go under. I don't really trust any of these teams really to hit over 22 points. Look, when you talk about Chicago, their pace of play is pretty slow, and they only scored 9 points in the first half. The Giants are giving up 14 in the second. That puts us right at 23. So when you look at these ancillary pieces of how are they going to get over? Well, they're going to feature their best players in Chicago, and that's probably going to be their running backs, and especially with the Giants, with Damon Harrison, Snacks gone, this defense on the ground has been very bad. So when you look at how to exploit this and to minimize what Chase Daniel probably can do, you're going to give it off to your running backs. Jordan Howard is someone that has failed us week over week, but he's someone that I'm looking at as well. Tariq Cohen, he is a mismatch against any defense. And when now you have the Giants and their poor pass and run defense, I just don't trust this game to hit this. So I'm going to say under for the Bears.
Agreeable read. 3 for 3, Anthony? What do you say?
Yeah, I'm going under. I mean, they just scored 23 points last week against Detroit, and they average a full yard more per pass attempt than the Giants do. I kind of agree with Steve. I think that the Giants' defense is a little undervalued right now. Certainly, you can beat them on the ground, but we know that games that are managed by the run game tend to go under. I think it's going to be a lot of Saquon, a lot of Howard, a decent amount of Cohen. So I would imagine that leads to an under.
Guys, Randall Cobb expected to return for the Packers, and he said Aaron Rodgers is getting ready to light everybody up. Pack versus the Cardinals, and the over-under is 28.5 points. So, Anthony, where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, that's really nice and all of Cobb to say, but this just hasn't been a very good Rodgers season. He has by far the most throwaways in the entire league with 47. The next closest quarterback has 27. 47 would actually be the most over a full season since 2010. So, Rodgers clearly not trusting the weapons that are out there. It's really making a huge difference in how he's playing. And the Cardinals have been pretty good on pass defense. They're top 6 in net yards per attempt allowed in the passing game. So I think this is an Aaron Jones game. And again, kind of going with the theme of a couple of these other news items, Green Bay, they're going to win this game on the ground. We know that Arizona's whole offense pretty much runs through David Johnson. So I don't think this goes over. I like the Cardinals to cover against the spread, and I like the Packers to go under this total.
Steve, Rodgers and company get it going this week?
Yeah, you know why Cobb thinks that? Because he's been spending all his time on the sidelines watching the games from there instead of actually playing. So I appreciate the analysis. I mean, honestly, it's kind of crazy, but you really just can't trust Rodgers at this point. I mean, he's thrown for under 200 yards in 2 of his last 4 games. And like Anthony said, this feels like an Aaron Jones game, if anything, because the Cardinals' run defense is not good at all. It saw Jones get 17 carries last week with 5 targets. He's kind of been the focal point of this offense when, who's not named Devontae Adams over the last 3 games as well. Green Bay's averaging just 24 points. So you can't love this total for them at 28.5, even if Cobb's on the field, but he's only done that 5 times this year. So let's calm down.
Because, come on, injured athletes say all the time that they can learn more from watching than from playing. You don't subscribe to that theory?
Yeah, I watch a lot. I don't know that much.
Well, Reed, how much do you know?
Very little to none.
What the dictionary
but
teach
yeah,
you?
look, I agree with these guys. Well, when you look at Green Bay, right, they're the losers of 4 of their last 5, and in those contests, right, their highest total again was against Miami. But at the same time, when you look at this Arizona pass defense, 9th in pass DVOA, they're getting to the quarterback as well, right? And when you look at Green Bay, who's going to score? Who's going to score those 2 touchdowns? Let's say Devontae Adams gets 1. Is Cobb going to all of a sudden, like Steve said, come back after being out for all this time and go back into it? He hasn't had a single good game he hasn't had a single good game except for week 1, and even then, that was a fluke. So yeah, exactly. So when you look at this, we're like, Arizona is giving up 26 points, but at the same time, like this is not going to come close to that. So I'm going to say under.
All right, Steve, Reed, Anthony, take a timeout. In fact, I'm going to step aside too. Take a break here. But Brendan, you got a chance to chat earlier with Dr. Riley Williams to run through some NFL injuries. Brandon and Riles, enjoy.
Dr. Riley Williams, head team medical doctor of the Brooklyn Nets, the New York Red Bulls, also Team USA basketball's medical doctor. Let's turn back to Week 11, Riley, as people are still talking about Redskins quarterback Alex Smith, his gruesome leg injury. Smith went down with a spiral fracture of his tibia and fibula. First, what exactly is a spiral fracture? And secondly, could this be a career-threatening injury?
Well, as you know, I have a lot of experience with this type of thing. The bottom line is I wouldn't get hung up on the spiral part. Fracture just means bone break. The descriptor is just basically it just means it's kind of a long circular fracture. It doesn't really affect whether or not I think he's going to make it back or not. Any kind of tibia fracture where there's a break in the skin and a potential for infection will introduce certain variables and factors. The first thing is to avoid infection, so I'm sure he's being treated with antibiotics for that early on, in addition to either rodding or plating the fracture. And listen, it's a tough call either way. It was a career ender for Joe Theismann, but it wasn't a career ender for Paul George. So bottom line is, I'm sure the doctors got him in, got it treated quickly. It's really, at this point, kind of a wait and see.
Colts tight end Jack Doyle had to leave Week 12's game after taking a big hit. He returned after the hit for 2 to 3 plays, then he left again. This time was sent to a local hospital to have a procedure on his kidneys. We talk a lot about bone and ligament injuries on this show, but does this injury to Doyle show just how dangerous and hard-hitting the game of football can be?
Well, you know, I've been on the sidelines for a lot of professional football games. What always strikes me is the size and the speed of the players involved. The collisions are just cataclysmic, just like a car crash. Yeah, you're right. We talk about bone and tendon injuries, but the internal organs are also at risk. The spleen and kidneys, think of them, they're organs, but they're like bags. So when they take a blow, it's possible to get a bleeding inside of that bag. So while I don't know the specifics of his case, very possible from a collision to the side or back that he would get a little bleeding into the kidney and they'd have to go in and maybe drain that. Obviously very serious in terms of ultimate kidney function, but totally recoverable. It's just hard to know based on the severity or not. But yeah, those internal organs are always at risk.
Let's go to the running back in L.A., Chargers running back Melvin Gordon. He's going to miss some time with a sprained MCL. Should return at some point this season. That's the report. Chargers don't necessarily need to rush him back until the playoffs since the Chiefs have pretty much locked up the AFC West. If the Chargers can hold him out until the postseason, how beneficial would the extra rest be for him? Or is it one of those injuries that once it's healed, and more rest wouldn't actually matter?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. MCL injuries, the MCL is the ligament that's on the inside of the knee. It kind of keeps your knee from bookending open, basically falling into the middle. They typically don't require surgery, but they hurt. They really do hurt quite a lot over the first few weeks. Physiologically, that ligament needs about 6 to 8 weeks to heal. So I would posit that while you may be able to get him back sooner, it certainly would not be beneficial necessarily. I'd say the longer they can hold him out, the better, because that physiologic healing response really does take about 8 weeks.
They should be in good hands with Austin Eckler these next few weeks. Anyway, let's go to the other team in L.A., Aqib Talib. He's due to return for the Rams in the secondary. He suffered a high ankle sprain in late September. We haven't heard anything since. He was put on injured reserve. Usually it seems like a high ankle sprain is something that lingers and takes some time to heal, but Talib had surgery on his ankle to fix the issue. What determines if you need rest or surgery for that kind of injury?
So remember, there are two bones in the lower leg, the fibula and the tibia, and there's a big ligament that goes down the entire length of those bones and holds them together. So when they talk about a high ankle sprain, it really isn't the ankle at all. It's that ligament between the two bones called a syndesmosis. And in my opinion, a high ankle sprain that's treated with surgery in the NFL is one that is a lot more predictably successful because you put a screw in there to basically hold that ligament together while it heals. So, typically in my experience, that would be about an 8-week recovery. Again, just like we talked about with that MCL injury, the more time they can hold him out to allow that to recover, the better off he's going to be. But I would expect that he'd make it back this season.
Dr. Riley Williams, always a pleasure to have you on The Sweat. Have fun with the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, my friend. Take care. See you next time.
Brendan, nice work. You're a rock star.
Can I go play now? Hey, now. You're a rock star.
I'm going to move on.
Okay.
So we're Josh Engelman from Awesemo.com, DK Live's Alex Verkleen, and of course, Action Network's Matt LaMarca. Action Matt, as we like to call him. They're here for a little bit of hoops talk. Guys, good to see you. Nice couple of hats. Guys, NBA pick and roll, okay? You pick the better of two players. Pretty basic. So first debate, James Harden versus Russell Westbrook. Harden, an absurd 234 fantasy points his last 3 games. It's stupid. He's worth $11,700. Deserves every penny of it at the Spurs. But Russ, $200 cheaper. He's put up 77 his last time out. So he's got the Hawks, I should mention as well. Where are you going, Matty?
Well, the big thing here is what's going to happen with Chris Paul. We still don't have an official word on if he's going to play or not. If he's in, it's hard to like Harden compared to Westbrook at their current price tags. Westbrook has the best possible matchup for fantasy right now versus the Atlanta Hawks. They're playing at the fastest pace in the league. Trae Young is dead last at the point guard position in terms of defensive real plus minus. And the Thunder are implied for 121 points on today's slate, which is more than 10 points higher than their regular season average. So I like Westbrook here. You could definitely make an argument that Harden's the better play if Chris Paul is out of the lineup, but we just don't know that yet.
I am being told, Josh, in my fancy earpiece, that Chris Paul looks like he's going to play. Nothing official, but that's at least where things are trending right now. So where are you going, Harden or Russ?
Yeah, I'm going Russ. I was going to say, I just got a nice little alert about Chris Paul on my phone from a DK Live app.
There you go, man. You got to support the push, baby.
Yeah, I want Russ. I'm nervous about the blowout, for sure. It's the Hawks. They're terrible. But if CP3 is back, it's going to be really hard for Harden to provide any high-level upside at 11-7. It's just too big of a price.
Alex, you agree?
I do agree. I'm a little disappointed, honestly, that we all agree, because one of my reasons was that I thought Westbrook would be a little bit less owned. But I'm not worried about blowout because the Thunder have 4 double-digit wins that Westbrook played in so far this year, and his minutes haven't been affected and his play hasn't been affected. He played 37 minutes, 33 minutes, 34 minutes, and then one of the games was right before he missed a couple because of injury. He got 77 DraftKings points, 53, 53, 56. So all solid performances, 2 triple doubles, a 30-point game, and a 20-10. He does well in blowouts. They keep him in there. So I like the Hawks' pace, and I like Westbrook a lot tonight.
Good looks with the T-Mac jersey, by the way. You just got to get the pinstripe one. That's the better one, the throwback.
I can't believe Westbrook and Harden were once teammates. Just the same
Many moons ago, man.
Yeah.
Long time. You could throw KD right on that squad. Pretty good. They were all in Seattle, too. You know that?
They were.
All right, let's go.
No one cares? Okay.
No one cares. A lot of people care.
Hey, 63 fantasy points last night against Indiana after that last night. Is it a LeBron night, Josh? He's 10,600 after now he's hosting the Mavs. Or do you save $1,000 and go with Blake Griffin versus the Bulls?
Yeah, I'd rather go to Blake Griffin. I do have LeBron projected higher than Griffin just overall, but I'd rather take the extra $1,000 savings in a matchup with the lovely Bulls defense. LeBron on a back-to-back makes me a little nervous. I think they could try to manage his minutes potentially, so I don't see the same sort of ceiling as I do for Blake.
From the green screen to the T-Mac jersey.
I'm also going to go with Griffin here. I also want to save the salary. The Bulls play fast. The Mavericks play slow. And as with Westbrook, Griffin's minutes have not been negatively impacted by blowouts, which is something that I like to see. but the salary space is a big attraction.
LeBron or Griffin, Action Matt?
I really don't think you want either of them, to be honest, but if I had to choose one, it would be LeBron. His price has come down by $700 over the past month. Blake is up to $9,600, which is a little bit too expensive in my opinion. If you look at what they've done, LeBron's at 1.47 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. Blake is at 1.22. So I think if you are going to play one of these two guys, I think it's a good idea to pay the extra $1,000 for LeBron.
So Action Matt wants to be the roll, not the pick. You know, it's pick and roll, but he wants to be the roll guy. He doesn't want to pick either one. Like, it's a good roll.
I've been eating all day. Griffin's teammate Andre Drummond is 9,400. Only hit 27 fantasy points last outing, probably because he is a dinosaur in today's NBA. But Drummond or 8,900 for Nick Vucevic. What do you think, Matt?
Got to be Vucevic of the two here. This sets up like a smash spot for him. Phoenix is the second worst rebounding team in the league, and they're dead last in defensive efficiency. They could also be without Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Simmons. Both guys are looking like game-time decisions. And if either or both miss, that would lead to a nice uptick in usage for Vucevic. So I think he's the clear guy of the two here.
Matt, I said Vucevic. Don't correct me. What do you say, Racleen?
I agree. Actually, over their last 5 games, despite the $500 cheaper salary, Vucevic has a higher average DKFP. And I'm less afraid of Vucevic's floor. He's got only 1 game below 38 in the last 10. Drummond has 2. And the matchup against the Suns, as Matt just said, looks great.
Josh, I just feel wildly disrespected.
I think our takes were too hot. It melted my internet or something.
Yeah, can we at least get a basketball court behind you if you're going to sit in front of a green screen?
I think you guys could do that, right? You could put me on a beach or at a bar or somewhere.
So
just keep
looks
getting
like
your news
fun,
alerts.
Yeah. We on Drummond and Vooch, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
Vooch. There's a way to do it.
Give me Vooch at lesser ownership tonight and the $500 savings. Now, don't get me wrong. Drummond looks great. It is, again, the Bulls. But Vooch has just been a nuclear offensive player so far this season, and I'll just take the savings again.
All right, guys, there are options under 7K this evening. For instance, Julius Randle at 6,900. He put up 40 fantasy points last game. Fantasy points. Jusuf Nurkic, he did it too, and he's 6,700. So, Alex, what do you think? Who are you picking here?
So the revenge narrative thing gets totally overdone, but for a guy like Nurkic, for his personality, it kind of fits. Last year, when he played the Nuggets, his averages were much higher than his season averages in points, rebounds, and field goal percentage. So I like him. But if we're looking under 7,000, I'm a little bit more attracted by Trae Young. If ever there was a game for Westbrook to not play defense, it's against the Hawks. Go down to, I think it's 6,400 for Trae Young. But between those two that you mentioned, Nurkic.
How about you, Josh?
I'm totally indifferent to these guys. I have their projections separated.
The hottest take of the night.
It's basically a coin flip. I assume Randall will be lesser owned, so if I'm playing a big tournament, I would go to Randall. If I was playing a smaller single entry, I'd be more likely to go to Nurkic.
Matt, you interested in this question?
It's interesting, right? You look at these two players. It is interesting.
Thank you.
These are basically the same exact player. Randall has averaged 1.36 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. Nurkic is at 1.38. Both guys are currently projected for 28 minutes in our Fantasy Labs NBA models. So, exactly what these other guys have said, flip a coin. I'll go with Nurkic because of the revenge narrative and the fact that Denver does play a traditional big man at most times, so he could see a few extra minutes.
All right, you guys hang tight. Matt, Alex, you can watch Vucevic highlights while Josh hangs out at the beach. More NFL on the way, starting with a packed back you might want to stack. Ha ha!
It's time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Tara Lenazak. Green Bay Packers wide receiver Randall Cobb says he expects to return Sunday after missing 6 of the last 8 games with a hamstring injury. Cobb initially suffered the injury in Week 3 against Washington and has been in and out of the lineup ever since. When on the field, the longest tenured Packers receiver has been pretty effective. Cobb has 17 catches for 192 yards and a touchdown in less than 3 games. The Pack hope the return of their 7-year vet will spark their offense, and Aaron Rodgers noted that Cobb would give them a big boost. After watching Rodgers' recent struggles, Cobb is eager to get back on the field and help his QB return to his best form. Cobb said of Rodgers, he's getting ready to light everybody up this week. It's the road to salvage this season in the Pack's final 5 games as they trail the Vikings and Bears in the division. The team is hoping to sneak their way into the playoffs, and they will take all the help they can get.
All right, thanks, Carolyn. We're here again with Steve Buchanan, Reed Fowler, both from DK Live, plus the Action Network's Anthony Amico. Let's chase or fade some QBs we mentioned earlier in the show. We just talked about it there again. Aaron Rodgers is ready to light everybody up. That's what Randall Cobb thinks. Chase or fade that Rodgers will do just that. Let's call it 30 DK points against the Cardinals. Anthony.
Fade. I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't even going to be the highest. He's not even going to be the highest scoring Aaron this week for the Packers. We talked a bunch about the Cardinals defense before. They're also allowing the 3rd least DK fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks and the 2nd lowest opponent plus minus to the position. This is an Aaron Jones game. No way Rodgers gets this.
Yeah, Steve, I believe you said the same thing. A big Aaron Jones game. Rodgers over under 30?
Yeah, this is such an easy fade. I mean, he's only seen 30 DK fantasy points twice this season. When you look at what the Cardinals defense has done against opposing quarterbacks, only one has scored more than 27 DK fantasy points all season long. It's the highest anybody has gotten against them. And then Rodgers has been even averaging 20 DK fantasy points over his last 3 games. He's sitting at 18 at this point. So 30 feels like miles and miles away of what he can get here. This is going to be a run-focused attack against this Cardinals defense. That's how you win games against Arizona. Oh, God. 17 maybe? That's where he's going to land.
You didn't hear him last week? All we got to do is beat Arizona, then beat Atlanta at home, and then go to Chicago, beat the Bears, and then go to the Jets, beat the Jets, and then, beat the Lions.
In fairness,
let's see what Randall Cobb has to say. He's got all the analysis.
That's right. But we still have you on. Reed, what do you got?
Well, I appreciate that rundown, Glash. You always give us the best information here. No, I agree with these guys. Look, like, when you look at Rodgers, like, let's expand that out with what Steve was saying. He has only hit over 20 once in the last 5 games, right? Rodgers isn't the guy that we've seen in the past, and a lot of it has to do with he's playing with some backup receivers. Finally, Aaron Jones is playing more, and so yeah, this is an Aaron Jones game. If you look at the Green Bay Packers over the last 3 games, they're running some of the slowest paced football, only around 50 plays, and Arizona has historically all season been one of the slowest paced teams. And with Arizona, they're giving up the most rush yards and touchdowns, and so this is Aaron Jones. These guys are right. Maybe set this at 20, and it would have been a little bit harder, but at 30, no way.
Too high.
Aaron J and not Aaron R. Yep.
Hot take, Glasheen.
What?
All right, Russell Wilson earned
Aaron
his
Jones.
second highest.
Jay.
No, thank you for explaining that. Russell Wilson earned his second highest fantasy total last week against the Panthers. Chase or fade, you are the information guy. The Seahawks QB going for 25 fantasy points at home opposite the Niners. Steve-O.
This is why he's only on like once a week.
Oh, here we go again.
Look,
I take back wishing you a happy birthday earlier in the week.
It's just not nice.
Let's not make this about us. Let's go back to the show.
So Wilson has basically been like the reverse to Deshaun Watson. Like, he wasn't throwing a lot to start the year, but he's been doing it a ton as of late. Over his last 4 games, 31, 31, 26, and 39. Then you take into factor that 49ers have been one of the most generous to opposing quarterbacks on the season, allowing an average of 21.1 DK fantasy points on the year. And this total has jumped up since his open, too. Went from 43.5 to 46. So obviously people are liking the over in this game. The only concern that I do have here is that Seattle's favored by 9.5 at this point. So if this game gets out of control early in the first half, that really could diminish the need to have Wilson throwing in this matchup. So that's something that definitely want to watch, especially their team total. But in a nutshell, yes, he should exceed that total.
Reed, you learn anything about Russell Wilson? One of them, their books behind you?
No books on Russ Wilson. I agree with Steve here. Like, for this to really happen, right? We saw this hit this mark. You have 3 touchdowns and 90-plus rushing yards in that high-scoring game for the Rams, and that really has to be the narrative of the game script for Russ to really hit this mark. And again, with all of these injuries that the 49ers are facing, you wonder how much the Niners are going to be in this game. This was a spread that I did actually like the beginning of the week, thinking that Goodwin and some of these guys are going to be back. But at the same time, right, you don't need to employ Russell Wilson that much. We like the fact that he's throwing these touchdowns at an impeccable rate. But we also got to figure, kind of going off of the last segment, these guys average 147 yards per game on the ground. That's the highest in the league. These guys are going to run the ball a lot, and probably not with Russell Wilson. So I'm going to fade this and go under.
Tony, you fading Wilson?
Yeah, I'm going under here for the exact reason that Reed said. They're not going to have to ask Wilson to do much to win this game. Seattle has shown they want to run the ball anytime they have a lead. 65% of the time this year with a lead, they've run the football, tied with the Bills for the highest in the NFL. They're the only 2 teams even at 60%. So super run-heavy attack for Seattle. Wilson's only thrown for 250 yards or more twice this season. He's really scoring his points with touchdowns, like Steve said. But, if Seattle's not throwing, it's kind of hard to see him hitting this number. Seattle is a 9.5 or 10-point favorite at home, depending where you're looking. So I think they're just going to keep us on the ground.
Joe Flacco, guys, practicing again, but likely won't be ready, listed as doubtful for this week. So more Lamar Jackson, Chaser Fade, the rookie, winning in Atlanta, Reed, and then starting at the Chiefs in Week 14, regardless of Flacco's status.
It's a lot there. It's a parlay.
Yeah, a little parlay. I know. I'm going to say that they do win this game, and I think it's because, look, we don't know Deion Jones' status. Look, he's going to play this game, which is a huge bump for this Falcons defense. They've been absolutely a sieve against pass-catching running backs in general, and then also rushing quarterbacks, giving up a ton of yards. So that does temper expectations for Lamar Jackson. But we see now that, and I think last week, showing that this guy can stay in the pocket and at least throw the ball and make some completions was a lot to do with what's going to happen in this game. They don't want defenses to stack 8-9, especially with Gus Edwards in the box there to stop these guys on the run. So I do think that they win this. And if he goes 3-0 and he wins on the road against Atlanta, an NFC team that has been faltering a little bit, you got to keep him started because essentially you need to stay in the hunt. I mean, if they're 3-0 now with this guy who's undefeated, there's no way to go back to Flacco.
Yeah, so Gus Edwards and and Alex Collins are both questionable for this one. So, Anthony, how does that impact your pick for this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about what I think is going to happen in the game in a little bit. That's called a tease, Kaufman.
Good.
But I want to talk instead about what's going to happen with Jackson's job. I mean, I think it's already his job to lose. They've won 2 straight with him after losing 3 in a row under Flacco. He's very clearly, a more explosive athlete, someone that's igniting this offense and really kind of the whole football team. So I think they're going to keep running him out there unless he totally implodes this week. I really think Flacco would probably be starting already if they weren't going to be content with Jackson.
You know who you are. Just go ahead and talk.
Thanks. I mean, look, you're crazy to think that Jackson doesn't give them a better chance to win at this point. I mean, he brings a completely different dynamic to this offense. But if you want to play devil's advocate here, I mean, we really haven't seen him go up against a tough team. He's gone against the Bengals and the Raiders, like big whoop. Like, let's see you do that against a good defense at this juncture. And until we see some failures, they have to just keep going with that hot hand. With that said, though, one thing you have to think about, Flacco's still under contract with them until next year. He's making $18.5 million next year. That's a pretty big, check to have sitting on the bench there all season long. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out, what they end up doing with Flacco here. But, it's not my money, so I don't care. So put Jackson out there. It makes the most sense.
It's a Sam Bradford idea, right? This guy gets paid so much money to sit on the bench. But if Harbaugh's out, that new regime is going to start with their new players. And Lamar Jackson, Steve's right, that is a ton of money to leave on the board. But if Harbaugh is out, and that's what we're hearing, right, that this is his last season, there's no more allegiance to Flacco for the new regime that comes in. So,
Jackson can't save his job?
Heisman.
I mean, no. I mean, Harbaugh's been bad. Harbaugh's been bad this entire season. If they're already coming out, if this was the case, if Jackson was going to save his job, he would have started him at the beginning, right? Like that's why you pick this guy in the first round, is to start them. We don't see this anymore where these guys have to sit. Yes, we saw it a little bit with Goff. Yes, we saw it with Rodgers back in the day, but at the same time, these number 1 round quarterbacks are going to start. That's just what the NFL is now. So if he was going to save his job, he would have started way before.
All right, I didn't have time to ask you about Tom Brady because you're out of time for now, so you got to go. Bye-bye.
Reed brings valuable information. We'll talk to those guys later on. But let's go to puck now. No time to waste. 5 games in the NHL tonight. So prior to opening faceoffs, DFS hockey expert Sean Newsome joins us to help choose between 2 top-priced options at each position. Hey, Sean.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Let's do that hockey, sir. Starting at center, not going to bother asking about McKinnon because he seems to be a lock these days, but you do have a second center slot in your classic NHL lineups. If you're paying up for McKinnon at $8,300, then you need some value. So do you like Evgeny Kuznetsov returning to the Caps lineup at $5,500 versus the Devils, or the Kings' Anze Kopitar, there it is, who is $4,900 at the Flames?
Yeah, so McKinnon is clearly the top play at center. He's the only one that really shoots volume other than Jack Eichel. But if you look down this range, I think I'd prefer Evgeny Kuznetsov. The matchup is a bit better. They are favored, unlike the Kings, who are a road dog tonight. And Anze Kopitar just doesn't really take many shots. Earlier in the year, we saw Evgeny Kuznetsov around $7,500 a lot of slates. So getting him at this reduced price point and $5,500 is really a nice bargain compared to what we were paying early in the season. So for me, and with the matchup that he has, I'd rather go with Evgeny Kuznetsov tonight.
All right, on to wings, which makes me hungry. As we said, McKinnon, hot as Hansel right now, and so are his line mates, but you probably can't fit both. So, Sean, you're going to go with Mikko Rantanen at $7,600 or Gabriel Landeskog at $7,300. What do you think?
Yeah, these two are actually very close. McKinnon is clearly the superior of the 3, but when you look at the other 2, there's not tons of shots from them because McKinnon takes such a high volume. If you look through their stats over the course of the season, Landeskog comes out slightly ahead in almost all of the statistical categories, excluding assists. He's in the top 10 in the league in goals. He shoots the puck more. Their block shot numbers are about the same. So for me, I think I would take a little bit of savings and play Landeskog, who I think is probably a slightly better play anyways.
Defense. Top-priced options at defense. Capitals D-man John Carlson, the most expensive blue liner, oh, by the way, on the slate, $6,600 versus the Devils, or Flames captain Mark Giordano for $6,300 versus the Kings.
Yeah, so Giordano and Carlson are both elite defensive plays tonight. If you look through their last 10 games, though, John Carlson averages about 2.5 shots per game and 2.5 block shots per game, while Giordano's closer to 2. So when you average that in, you get about an extra point worth from what Carlson does. The matchups are both very similar. They both have solid plus matchups. Both of their team totals are 3.4 points. So for me, I think I would go with Carlson. I think he's a slightly better option in a slightly better spot. And his peripheral stats over the last 10 games have been slightly better than what you get from Giordano.
All right, between the pipes, coming off a game where he scored almost 12 fantasy points, a guy whose name I always screwed up, Curtis McElhinney, $7,700. I think I got that one right. All right, good. Hey, good for me. Just a pat on the back. Or, all right, you can pay up a little bit for Mike Smith as well, $8K. He started to turn a corner. Smith. He started to turn a corner after a tough start to the season, which actually seems like kind of a theme for him. Who's the choice here, Sean?
Yeah, you smashed both names. Especially proud of you about the Mike Smith one.
Yeah, no, I've been practicing that one all afternoon.
Yeah, it was a difficult one to get out. But, yeah, I think goaltenders are very close. I'm going to go more into this, I guess, with my lock of the slate. But I am going to take Curtis McElhinney. When you look at both of them, they should see a similar shot expectation, and they're both expected to win on a similar level. So I think I'm going to take McElhinney, and I'll get more into that in a little minute.
Well, I was just going to say,
you guys are teasing left and right.
Heck of a tease by Sean. Your slate-approved pick for the Chell 5-gamer, please.
So my slate-approved pick today is not just a player, but also the team. It's Dougie Hamilton for Carolina. Hamilton's been a shot volume beast all season, but if you look through the entire Carolina roster, you find guys like Jordan Staal, Justin Williams, Sebastian Aho, Dougie Hamilton, who are all underpriced compared to what they probably should be. So it makes a great situation in which you can stack Carolina, especially in GPPs, which leads to the McElhinney play as well with the correlation that he possesses. So if you can sort of stack Carolina and play McElhinney in net, I think it makes for a great option, not just in cash, but also in GPP.
All right, Sean, thank you for your time. A lot of great insights. Hope you enjoyed the slate. We are going to get back to hoops in a few minutes after Mike Francesa and I discussed last night's Cowboys win. He was very excited about that, plus a bunch of other stuff because, it's what we do. It's a Francesa Friday, one of my favorite segments, each and every week, and I'm not just buttering the man up so he'll take me with him to Saratoga. I'm Adam Kaufman. He's Mike Francesa, iconic host on WFAN in New York. Mike, let's dive in with Thursday Night Football. Cowboys upset the Saints. 10-game winning streak is over for Narlands. And, on the whole, we know that New Orleans is the real deal, but how do they compete with the Rams in L.A.?
Well, I think before that, let's say something about last night's game first. Okay?
Sure.
And I want to say this. Last night, that was, from the Dallas defense, the single most impressive defensive performance I've seen from a team in the NFL in recent years. It was that good. It was overpowering. And if you take away some dumb penalties, including the ridiculous roughing the punter by Gregory, and take away the turnovers, they would have shut the Saints out last night. I mean, they were that good, and they demolished the best offensive line in the league.
NFC in general, all right, you got the Bears, the Cowboys, Vikings, Redskins. These teams are all wild card teams at this moment. Clearly, we know there's about a handful of games to go for most teams. Will any of those four fall short down the stretch?
It's going to be interesting. I think you see a couple teams that are moving into good position. I think the Bears and Vikings are both in good position. One to secure the league at the division, one to get a wild card. I think the Cowboys are moving away in the NFC East, and I think with the Redskins hurting and the Eagles hurting in the secondary, I think that'll be the case, especially after last night. And I think clearly the Rams and Saints will be the 1 and 2 seed. Carolina is an interesting one to watch which way they're going to go as far as being the other wild card. And Seattle, you got to watch also. But I think clearly the Rams and Saints will be 1 and 2. They deserve that.
Texans, Chargers, Steelers, Ravens. That's the wild card group through 11 games. Any of those teams going to miss the playoffs?
Texans will. I think they'll hold off the Colts and win the division. Chargers are going to be a wild card. The second wild card is going to be interesting in the AFC. The Steelers are gone, so no. I think the AFC is very clear cut. I think you have New England, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, San Diego. Okay, and you're worried about what happens, as far as the other wild card. That's basically it.
Let's go over to hoops. LeBron James says as he put it, he's battling when to defer, when to take over games. He's trying to find a balance. So really my question is this. Is he completely tuned out Luke Walton at this point? It's just 21 games into the year.
I think it's much to do about nothing. Listen, the bottom line is this. LeBron James is going to play the same way all the time. The idea he was going to play differently is ridiculous. In the fourth quarter, in games that he wants to win, he is going to have the ball. He's going to play pick and roll with him having the ball. Everybody else has got to be a guy who goes to a spot to get a shot. I don't care who you are, that's going to be the idea. The idea of anybody else handling the ball is ridiculous. And he's still going to be the guy that most nights is going to be 30 and flirting with a triple-double. That's going to be who it is.
I can't let you go without talking about the Mets, and I wouldn't want to. Edwin Diaz is a great closer. We know that. But are they really going to take on Robinson Cano's 5 years, $120 million to get him and give up a couple of top prospects? I mean, what the hell are they doing?
All right, two things about that. I want to see the final deal before I opine completely, but because I've heard 32 variations. But here's the deal. If they can unload $30 million worth of contracts in the deal, get $60 million back in cash, get the closer, they don't have great prospects, first of all. So I'm not that worried about the prospects. If Bruce is in the deal and Swarzik's in the deal, good. If they can unload that money and get 60 back on Robbie's deal, it's not a bad deal. It's okay. But I very much worry about Robbie Cano, who I know very well. I've known him since he was a baby. Because he followed A-Rod around everywhere, and I was close with A-Rod, so I know Robbie forever, okay? Robbie, if he was coming to the Yankees, I'd feel very differently because he worships the Yankees. Robbie, back in New York City, and he likes to go out at night. Robbie, at 36, off a steroid year, having played 2,050 games, an old 36, middle infield position in a new league. For the Mets, I worry about all those factors. I think there's a lot of there's a lot more reasons why it's going to fail more than it's going to succeed.
Mike Francesa. Thank you, Mike. We'll chat again Sunday.
All right, 11 games in the NBA, in case you didn't know.
Frankie's the best.
Yeah. You got a bunch of nicknames for people tonight. What's up with you?
I don't know.
Good. What's next for me?
Time will tell, pal. We got time. 15, 16 minutes.
Yeah, we're back talking basketball. DK Live's Alex Rickleen, Josh Engelman of Awesemo.com and the Action Network's Matt LaMarca. Action, Matt, let's head to you right away. Any late-breaking injury news? I know Victor Oladipo is now out indefinitely. That was one of the nuggets that came along. Chris Paul is expected to play. Any lineup news that you have your eye on as we approach lock here?
Yeah, I mean, most of the news, we're fortunate, came out earlier in the day. There's definitely a lot of value on this slate, and the good thing is that most of it is known. Really, the only things I'm monitoring are the status of the Orlando guys in Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Simmons, and then what's going to happen with Jeff Green in Washington.
Anything to add to that, Josh?
Now, Jeff Green's the one that I have my eye on the most. I've been assuming Aaron Gordon's been out all day, but if Jeff Green ends up out, there's no telling who plays for Washington tonight. Not Dwight Howard, that much I can guarantee.
Yeah. Yes. Alex, how about you? Anything catching your eye?
We'll talk about it in a minute, but the Horford out is something that I will be talking about later in this segment.
Okay, yeah, that was declared, yesterday that Horford was going to rest?
I just like that we have one guy from each of our sports saying, look, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Right, they're teasing. They're plugging the program.
You can't make me give up my take right now. All right, guys, we're going to shed some tears of joy. Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. Build suspense. All right, you got to pick one from each bunch. With this bunch here, Tier 5, Josh. You could start with you. Now, you got a lot of good choices. Donovan Mitchell, D'Angelo Russell, Josh Richardson, Hassan Whiteside, Nick Mirotic, Steven Adams, Jimmy Butler, LaMarcus Aldridge. I mean, the list is extensive. What do you think? Who's your guy?
It's Jimmy Butler for me. He's got the highest projection in my model of all the guys. I love the spot, big time up and down game. I love everyone from the Sixers today, but I think that I actually like Jimmy Butler the most. So give me Butler in Tier 5.
Alex, Butler as well, or you have a different favorite?
Yeah, I do have Butler. I was high on him on the show Wednesday, and that was a total disaster. But I stand by the that I put forward on that, which is that he's over his first couple games, he sort of took a secondary role. His usage rate was much lower than his career numbers. And then after his first 5 games, in the next couple, his usage rate started creeping back up to his career averages. Now, Wednesday was a blowout. That game was over by the end of the first quarter. And so I don't really think we gain anything interesting from that game. So, but in what'll hopefully be a more normal game, I'm sticking with my Butler.
All right, you can put Wednesday behind you. Nobody remembers that. Ask Action Matt. He forgets about these takes all the time.
I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast. I'm going with Josh Richardson in this tier. I'm going to go a little bit differently. I think that the Miami guys are in an underrated spot here against the Pelicans. The Pelicans are one of the fastest teams in the league. They're playing at the 3rd fastest pace. They're just 25th in defensive efficiency. So that's a nice combination to target for fantasy purposes. Miami is still down Goran Dragic and Tyler Johnson. So Richardson should also see a bump in usage with both of those guys out. So I think he's the guy that I'm giving the call here in this tier.
All right, want to get your top pick from Tier 6, Alex. Luka Doncic, DeAndre Jordan, Jamal Murray, Yusef Nurkic, C.J. McCollum, Julius Randle, Jabari Parker, DeAndre Ayton. No, Tracy McGrady is not in this tier.
Unfortunately. DeAndre Jordan is my pick here. The Lakers-Mavs game is the game that I want a piece of. It looks like it'll be a competitive game the whole way through, and it looks like it's going to be a relatively high-scoring affair. And there are only 3 tiers, guys, from that game. LeBron is in the same tier as Blake, and we already both said we prefer Blake. And in this tier, you've got Jordan and Doncic, and the Lakers are a much better matchup for center than for a point guard or a wing, and that's putting it lightly. So Jordan is my guy here. And also, I want to back Matt up on Richardson. He was my backup. I just didn't like my Butler take for Tier 5.
Okay, we feel a little bit better about that now. So Alex goes big. Action Matt, you going to a guard, or you going big?
I'm going medium, I guess.
Sure,
I like
sure.
Jabari Parker here.
Okay.
If you look at what he's done recently, at least 39.5 DraftKings points in 5 straight games. He's playing big minutes, and we know that when this guy is on the floor, he's a certified bucket getter. He gives back everything he gets on the defensive end of the court, but that doesn't really matter for fantasy purposes. So I'm going to keep riding the Jabari train right now. He's coming off his highest usage rate of the season in his last game. I think we should just continue to enjoy the fantasy goodness.
Does your pick differ from the group, Josh?
It does differ. You guys did a great job of picking these tier 6 guys. I have everybody separated by only 2 points of all 8 guys, but the guy that I want is Luka. I think he's going to have some interest in showing off in LA. This is purely a mental narrative pick for me, not normally the way that I look at this, but I have a feeling that Luka's going to really enjoy playing in Los Angeles tonight.
We do want to tell you from our handy-dandy app, just got to push. Jeff Green is going to start tonight in place of Otto Porter, so something you want to keep an eye on. Download that app, by the way. You can get a whole lot of information just because we were talking about that. But before we let you fellas go, we need your locks, all right? Your slate-approved picks. Matt, go ahead first.
Even though Jeff Green is in, I'm still going to make Markieff Morris my lock here. He's been playing great basketball recently. Should see a nice bump in minutes with Otto Porter out. And obviously Dwight Howard is going to miss, at least a couple of months, it sounds like. I think he can get over 30 minutes tonight, and he's been averaging about 0.9 fantasy points per minute over the past month. So I think he's really nice value at 5,500.
Alex?
I'm going to go with Aaron Baines all the way down at 3,200. Last time Horford was out, Baines went off for 36.8 DraftKings points. He's got 15 DraftKings points in 6 of his last 8 games. Horford was playing for most of those. The price is so low, and you look like you'll probably get a lot out of it.
That's what he was teasing at the start of the
Yeah,
segment.
Baines is starting tonight, too. All of Australia. What do you say, Josh?
I haven't heard this guy get talked about much at all today, and it really surprises me. TJ Warren is out, so give me Devin Booker tonight. There's not going to be any shortage of shots for Booker. I don't really think that a Kobo or Josh Jackson are going to be the answer for them with Warren out. So if Phoenix wants to stay in this game, I think it's going to be on the back of Devin Booker. I haven't seen anybody really mention him, so I feel like I'm going to get some leverage on the field with Booker.
I've seen an increasing number of snapbacks this week. They're the hats. They're good. You're bringing them back, I guess.
You're getting old.
Well, good. Then
Alex,
it fits my style.
Josh, Matt, enjoy the games. We're back in a sec to wrap things up with NFL spreads discussion. Let's make sure everything's okay first, though, with LeBron out in La La Land.
I'm worried he's balancing.
Tara Lanazak in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Lakers are starting to hit their stride with LeBron James leading them as expected. But after Thursday night's 104-96 win over the Indiana Pacers, LBJ admitted that he has struggled with finding a balance between taking over the game himself and relying on his teammates. James chose the former last night as he poured in 38 points in 38 minutes, including 12 in the fourth quarter, to lead the Lakers to a win over Indiana. Shouldering that load is nothing new for James, but deferring to someone else once in a while seems to be what the Lakers prefer. President of Basketball Operations Magic Johnson is looking at the big picture. He wants to manage the 4-time MVP differently than the Cleveland Cavaliers did, saying in a radio interview yesterday, "We are trying to make sure that we watch his minutes, but also that we don't run everything through him because now it is Cleveland all over again, and we don't want that." We'll see how much truth there is to Magic's plan as the Lakers get right back at it tonight against the Mavericks.
All right, folks, don't start your weekend just yet. We have 7 more minutes. Don't go anywhere. One more quick chat about the NFL. We bring in the panel, DK Live, Steve Buchanan, Reed Fowler, and Anthony Amico. You can catch him on the Action Network as well. We're talking spreads, guys, if they're too high, too low, or just right. Steve, you're the big bad wolf. You go first. Falcons 3-3 at home. Birds 1.5-point favorites over the visiting Lamar Jackson-led Ravens. Too high, too low, or just right?
I mean, it's really just essentially a pick 'em at this level, but I think it's too high. I'm not convinced the Falcons are going to win this game. I mean, if anything, you have to like the Ravens a bit more with Jackson starting. I mean, yes, their running back situation is a bit muddy right now, But Jackson's pretty much doing it all himself. Who needs running backs when you have Jackson starting at quarterback? And then the Atlanta corners are really not anything that impressive. So, like, I feel like there's just so many boxes that the Ravens check off here, and there's too many that the Ravens don't at this point. So I think it's too high. I think the Ravens win this game.
Reed, I think there's a Porge joke in here somewhere, but I can't find it. So too high, too low, or just right?
I mean, the Goldilocks take will be right here. I mean, that's the bad pun of the night. So, look, I agree with Steve. I agree with Steve here. Steve's right. I think the Ravens win this outright. Who are the Falcons beating? I think we're overinflating the Falcons' offense. Yes, they've been in places where they've scored a lot of points, but against who? They only have one win against maybe a good team in Carolina, but even Carolina is suspect, right? Over the last 3 games, Atlanta scored 22 points, 1 at home, or 2 away, 1 at home, and at home they only scored 19 points. So what's going to happen here? How is Atlanta going to score here? 3-8 against the spread. They're tied with Oakland for the worst against the spread. So I think the Falcons. So this is too high.
Anthony, you ready for your tease?
Yeah, I'm going too low here. I think that we're getting some spread value from the Ravens looking so good and the Falcons looking so bad of late. This is a pretty tough matchup for Lamar Jackson. Atlanta's defense hasn't been great, but it's mostly against the pass where they've struggled. They play a ton of cover 3 on defense that keeps all their defenders facing the line of scrimmage. It's going to make it a little easier to chase Lamar Jackson when he runs. And speaking of which, Deion Jones back for the Falcons, he's a real difference maker sideline to sideline. I think he helps them tremendously defending the rookie quarterback.
The Bears have won 5 straight games. They're 4-point road favorites over the Giants. That's even with Chase Daniels likely getting the nod at quarterback with a doubtful Mitch Trubisky. So too high, too low, or just right, Reed?
Yeah, I think this is just right here. And if you look, if Trubisky was in, obviously this line would be closer to 7.5, 8 points. Because how do you give any credence to a backup quarterback, and how is he going to do on the road, especially with the Giants are bad, like 7th worst sack rate per DVOA. When you talk about the Bears, right, and their defense, they're the highest in terms of percent of drives that end in a turnover and lowest in percent of offense that ends in a score. So, right, how are the Giants going to score this game? I don't think they are, but I think this line gets a little closer, right, obviously to 0 because we don't know what Chase Daniels is going to do. We think this is going to be a run-first game. So I think this is just right, but I'd lean to the Bears because that defense could easily score when Manning throws an interception.
How about you, Anthony?
Well, Eli's setting career best in interceptions this year, Reed. So eat that. It's my boy. I think this is too high, though. We talked before about how we expect the game to be low scoring. I mean, the Giants are at home. They've taken 64% of the betting money, despite just having 41% of the tickets, according to the Action Network. So a little bit of sharp action on the Giants early in the week. We've seen in the past these backup quarterbacks do well in their first start and then struggle once opposing teams have some tape on them. Giants, I think, have a shot to win this game outright. But if they do lose, I think it's going to be just by a field goal.
All right, Steve, what do you got?
I mean, and this game again. I mean, it's hard to get excited about this game and who you want to take. I mean, the Bears have been defensively been fantastic. They've done a great job of keeping a lid on opposing quarterbacks. They've only seen one quarterback score over 20 DK fantasy points since week 7 when they faced the Patriots. Since then, they've been averaging just 14 DK fantasy points in the game after that fact. Then the Giants, as I mentioned earlier, they're still pretty good defensively. I don't know. They're not getting enough respect here. I mean, I want to side with the Giants on this one, but this is just such a gross game. Just don't even bother with this one.
Have to be very quick with this one, guys. Patriots back home, 5-point home favorites over the Vikings. Big name players like Stephon Diggs and Rob Gronkowski, both on the injury report. So is the spread too high, too low, just right? Anthony.
Too low for me. Since 2003, the Patriots are covering a ridiculous 73% of the time when favored by 7 points or less at home, according to BetLabs. That includes 3-1 this year. New England, not quite as dominant as they've been in years past, but they've still crushed at home. I think they'll do so again this week.
Steve, quicker.
2 ways you can beat the Vikings. Out of the slot and check downs to the running backs. Patriots excel in both those spots. They'll beat this one. It's too low.
Read that length was just right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's too high. I'm not really sold on the Patriots yet. They're minus 1.5 plus minus against the spread. Minnesota is doing well on defensive line. They're healthier, so I'm going to say too high.
Reed, can you name even one book on that shelf that isn't the dictionary?
The Hardy Boys.
So money, he doesn't even know it. All right, guys, we appreciate your time. I think we can maybe sneak in one more.
We can sneak in one more if they're still here.
10 seconds each. All right, go ahead.
Okay, Sunday Night Football. Steelers 3.5-point home favorites over the Melvin Gordon-less Chargers. Steve, what do you got over whatever. What's the question again?
Too high, too low,
high or
just
too low?
right.
There it
My
is.
God.
Yeah, just right. Steelers, go.
Reed.
I think this is too low. I think the Steelers primetime Ben 97 passer rating too low.
All right, take us home.
Too low, Steelers.
There it is. Sorry.
All right, you guys get out of here. You've
for
been
me.
fun. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Always a pleasure. These guys, they bring the heat every single time.
Yeah,
Seems
they're a
hard
whole
on
lot
you,
of
though, aren't
fun.
they? Yeah,
I like-
quite
yeah.
a pleasure. All right, we're going to get out of here as well. Rest up for our Sunday show. That is the next one. You don't want to miss it. 11:30 a.m. Eastern Sunday morning, taking you up until the 1 p.m. kickoffs. Tuned in, DK Live app, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. He's Brendan. I'm Adam. Gonna go play some Chell.
See ya.